Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Male Perspective. I am your host, Lana Reid, and today my guest, I'm so excited, is Mr. Wil Davis. We have been Facebook friends forever,
Yes,
and this is our very first time to actually have face-to-face chat, and I'm just so thrilled. Technology is amazing. It's just finally nice to just put it all together. So welcome, and thank you for hanging out with me, Wil.
Thank you so much. It's an honor and a privilege to be here, and I'm glad I could help for whatever you need to cover.
Oh, thank you. Now, I want to talk about your love story because it's so special and so cute to me. Now, you met your wife. Well, first of all, you tell the story about how you met your wife.
Well, it was over a decade ago. I was moving from the north to the south, and I was working for a company that offered training that my wife took through her company here in Houston. And she had some questions about some of the courses. Of all the reps in our office, she got transferred to me. I helped her out, answered her questions, and through conversation really hit it off to the point where just within a short while started talking after hours. And in doing so, I happened to mention that I had a birthday coming up. She asked me, and of all dates, it's her birthday. You're younger. So I said, well, let's celebrate. I'll fly out to Houston and I'll take us out to dinner. So she put me up in a really nice hotel close by. We had 4 days that just turned out to be awesome. Met her family, just hit it off, just a great time. And at the airport, we kind of joked that someone ought to move. Well, the next day when I returned to work, they met me at the front door because that division of this large company, the second time in 2 years, had just closed its doors and I didn't have a job. So my response was, awesome. And they were surprised. And I said, well, I just met someone, so I'm going to move to Houston. 3 weeks later, I packed up my truck, moved out here, and it was a series of miracles that unfolded for me to experience Houston and get to know her for over a year before we got married, and we just celebrated a short while ago our 10th year anniversary. Awesome. So yes, it was pretty special.
Now I want to ask you this, and I'm pretty sure at every man's crossroads, he comes to this crossroad in his life. How does a man know, like, she's the one? I mean, especially you took some very major steps, but how do you know, like, that woman is the one?
For me, it was a combination of what was really important in life, and not just necessarily at our stage, because we were both over 50 at that point. Had been married before, and perspectives and criteria and things change, but there are some that always remain the same. For us, it was our own personal relationships with God that really were the center and the core of even going any further and in solidifying what we felt we saw in each other over the phone when we met. Now, of course, all the other things like wine, food, traveling, all those other things that you really hopefully can enjoy with a spouse, were all pluses. But the things that have held us together, for example, her brother, who's coming over for dinner tonight, is the pastor in a local church an hour from here where her dad was the deacon. And so when I met the family, because you realize when you do marry someone, you're joining the whole clan.
That's right.
And in meeting the whole clan right away and really hitting it off with them and realizing that, yeah, this is a family I could spend time with, that made all the difference in the world. And over the past 11 years, it has unfolded in even more and better ways than I could ever imagine. So those are really the core reasons on how we both knew, because again, it takes two. Mm-hmm. And it was an agreement within ourselves with God personally that meshed and were made clear as we came together in meeting, and having it unfold has just been more of a blessing than I could have ever imagined.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Now, you mentioned that you were married, both of you were married prior to this one, but I want to ask you in particular, what do you feel, or what lessons that you learned from the first marriage that made you able to make this one better?
Communication has always been very important to me, and I've always taken it upon myself to do the best that I can to communicate what I feel are clear thoughts and feelings and directions in my life, and or especially in a marriage, for what we can be together. One of the most important things, though, that I realize more and more in time is listening. I read a book years ago in the 70s, The Art of Communication, and the first chapter is on listening. Mm-hmm. Which should give you a clue that that's pretty important. So in doing that, and it's not, again, just hearing, but it's really listening, not necessarily to the words, but what the person is saying behind the words that causes him to use those words. Mm-hmm. And not just the words themselves, but how they're expressed. And for me, what's most important, and it's always a challenge because sometimes we have our own agenda, we want to be heard, is to really take a step back and in listening, learn and relearn that we don't have all the answers. We don't have the total perspective. As they say, there's three sides to every story, your side, my side, and the truth. And the truth is really what we're going after, because it's the truth that's going to really make us understand what's most important, not what our agenda is. Because a lot of times ours is, let's face it, selfish.
That's right.
So to go above and beyond that, to make a marriage what it can be and should be, it really takes listening and then implementing and remembering what you listened and applying it, like teaching a child. Okay, we're going to go over this lesson again, but if you really understand and take it to heart and practice it, it's going to make a difference in your life.
Okay, awesome listening. And you know, I think, and you hear that quote quite often floating around, people listen with the intention to reply, but not to understand or comprehend the words that are being said. And that's very important, because in a relationship, some people say more so women, but in a relationship, you really want to be heard. You know, you really want to be understood. So listening is very important. I want to also ask you, Wil, as a seasoned man now, if you had to sit down with a young man who was 20 years old and about to embark on this pathway called marriage, what kind of advice or tips would you give him?
Well, since there are many choices, I would, first of all, I think, say, don't necessarily marry the woman you can be with. Marry the one you can't be without. That will give you a clue as to the adventure that you'll hopefully experience, because you don't want it to just be a mutual understanding. You don't want to have just the physical or the emotional or whatever. You really want it to be an unending, enjoyable adventure that never stops. And in a way, it really doesn't, because there are going to be so many phases that you go through. And for a man, there are many phases of manhood. And there's some books that I could highly recommend that would help women understand. And that would be a book, for example, that I would recommend a young man read, because he's going to have an idea of what he is facing now as a young man. But through those, and in this book refers it to the 6 stages of manhood, he's going to understand past where he's now, what the next stage is going to be like. Okay. And all the way up to being, as the book puts it, in his later years, a sage, to the point where he has a better grasp on the growth that he's experienced. And at the point in his life where he is now a sage, will have the patience and the understanding and the wisdom to pass on what he's learned. So again, in choosing someone, it's really finding someone that's not just compatible, but is really willing to take that adventure and really make it grow, and not just be something that's going to sustain you, but it's going to always keep you young no matter how old you get. So that you grow old together, not in spite of each other.
Good point. Good point. You know, I do a lot of relationship seminars and relationship counseling, and it's for the younger generation. And I think that's one of the things that I really see lacking in them, is that they don't have a lot of elder mentorship, elders to follow the example by. So they're just really winging it, and they get caught up in the things that fade. She looks good. He looks good. He makes me feel good, or whatever. But you need some sort of guidance to let you know there's a long journey ahead of you.
Mhm.
Those things that you're looking at now, those are going to go away. So what's left over? And I really think that, you know, that's what's lacking in a lot of the young kids' relationships today. They just don't have elder mentorship. I know that's what got me through a lot of moments in my marriage. I was like, I'm done, I'm leaving. And I would go sit in my aunt's kitchen, and she was like,
Mm-hmm.
now, baby, take a deep breath.
Yeah, take a deep breath. Yes. Taking many deep breaths. Just remember, deep breaths come from deep people. So, you know, embrace that, really.
Now, I want to kind of tie in relationships, marriage, and the work that you do. You work for a company that does a lot of internet stuff, right?
Right. I've been in sales for about 40 years in customer service, and everything I've experienced over the years has led me to the point where I can be comfortable in just about every setting. And in the last couple of years, I've had an opportunity to work with a company that does offer internet marketing services. And the reason that I enjoyed working for them is their main goal, and kind of their slogan is bringing integrity to the SEO space, for example, because unfortunately, because of misnomers and just different things in the industry, there's a lot of companies that can get away with what they think their customer is not going to notice, because their customer's lack of understanding, because there's so much involved in internet marketing, not so much based on their knowledge, but in working with companies like Google, their algorithms and a lot change. So you really have to stay on top of it. And it takes a company with integrity to always want to know the best thing to do for the client, because in an area where the client knows about their business and really can succeed at it, they're trusting that another company that does things that almost are unseen because it's all in the background. So there's a tremendous amount of integrity that our company handles, from website design to social marketing in Facebook and others, that I enjoy working from. And in my particular case, because we have a couple of dozen employees all over the world, and we all work from home, even though we have offices available and hosting clients when we need to, it's offered me an opportunity, especially at this stage in my life as an older gentleman, to be able to work at a pace and in more of a comfortable setting that's not so fast paced. So I've been fortunate in my career over the years to learn enough to have the discipline to be able to do that. Because unfortunately, a lot of folks don't have that when they're working from home. They take advantage of the TV, the refrigerator, other chores around the house. But in realizing as you get older, the things that are really most important in life, and attending to that, it can make a difference on what we do for our clients. We just signed up a doctor's group of 4 surgeons last week that were referred by our #1 client, who's a physician that advertises for us nationwide because he's been so happy with our services. And in a way, how we handle our business makes the biggest difference, because we're without contracts, in that we shouldn't have to do a contract if the results are there. And because the results are there, our clients are free to let others know that, yes, this is the company that can really handle your needs.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. So, because you do the internet and websites and SEO and represent clients, I have it's a kind of a twist of a question, but just your personal observations. Do you find with internet and the access of the internet that it makes relationships more complicated? Because people are like, kind of, I have to show me and him being happy on a selfie, and there's just constant pressure to put your best face forward on the internet. Or do you think that it has an impact?
I think because more people are getting used to doing more on the internet, and maybe because they're not in a position to have to represent themselves in, like, for example, you have an office, you got to dress up, you've got to be, there's just so many aspects of that. So if some of those aspects are taken away to allow your presentation to be more comfortable, that I feel is going to come out more comfortably to the potential of the client. In our particular case, I'll get a call from a physician who will say, yes, this doctor recommended me to your service. I'll explain to them. And because I've had a lot of practice with doing over the phone and over the computer for decades, it's a perfect fit for me because I'm most comfortable in doing this, even though I can pretty much do it in any setting. And in that comfort zone, I'm able to give them an idea, even over the phone and through the internet, that they can trust me. Okay. And so the next step is then to bring in more of the team. And we use the same service that we're using right now that allows us to be able to see each other and talk. And in doing so, we're able to show graphs and proof and all of the things that maybe if they were in a office setting, there might be too many distractions, but if they're just sitting in their office, they're concentrating on one screen. So in a lot of ways, even though technology has allowed us to be more efficient at what we do, but it's taken away the human aspect. If done correctly or done with an attitude of total servanthood, then it really ramps it up and makes it easier, because especially in the case of physicians, they don't have the time.
Yes.
And this allows us to be able to service clients in all 50 states per their schedule. Like tomorrow night, we have a 3-hour training with this new client that goes from 5 until 8. So we're able to, from our homes, better adapt to that, which makes it easier for them to do business with us.
Okay, awesome.
So we're going to be efficient in a way that makes everyone comfortable. And with the growth and the proof of what we're doing, it's really a win-win for everyone.
So you've been doing what you've been doing at home for a minute now. Do you think you could ever transition back to the office life?
Well, actually, in this particular company I've actually worked from home on and off, and mostly on for the last 20-some years.
Okay.
So at this point, it would never be a preference, especially in Houston, Texas, to drive somewhere through the traffic. This just allows me to prepare mentally and in so many ways. So it's just my preference, and I just thank God that I have the opportunity. And it was really a miracle on how I met the gentleman through relationships that we had on Facebook that we never met either, that right when I was leaving one job, this other one came up. So through it all, just kind of like my marriage, it was really meant to be, and it has worked out very, very well.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Everything just fell into place. You were on the phone with this lady, and then everything just bam, 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 bam. I love it. I love it.
Yes.
Well, Wil, 30 minutes have went by so fast. It's
Really?
Yes. You see?
Well, like I said, I got flexibility in my day, so I got as much time as you want. But
yeah, 30 minutes has went by so fast. Wow. I enjoy talking. It's so amazing. I have been, like 9 years or something. We've been Facebook friends.
It's been a while, and I don't even remember how, but that's not important.
Yes, well,
it's the fact that when you connect,
yes,
and you allow it to prosper in a natural way.
That's right.
It comes to the point when you're asked to be or you're called upon, that you can step into that, because it was just recently that you offered an opportunity. I accepted based on the trust and the relationship that we have, even without the face-to-face, to the point where it's like we've been doing this for years, face-to-face.
Love it, love it. Oh, this is so awesome. I am so glad to finally see you face-to-face. Well, this is the conclusion of this particular episode of The Male Perspective. Will, did you want to give the website for your company, or?
Sure, yeah. The website is www.authoritysolutions.com.
Okay.
In doing so, if you find it informationally intriguing and you give a call and they want to mention my name, it'll come to me as a lead, and I'd be more than happy to meet and help them in any way that I can.
Awesome, amazing. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for hanging out with me.
Absolutely, it's been awesome.
As we talked earlier, good luck on the vegan dish for tonight.
Thank you.
We
are going more towards a plant-based diet, so it's going to be an adventure. But my wife and I, at the same time, without even discussing it earlier, have agreed that this is where we need to go as we get older. So the timing for that was perfect as well.
That's right. That's right. All righty, Will. You have a good day. Good
Thank you, dear. Appreciate it.
Turns out. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. It's been a pleasure. All right. Bye-bye.
Oh.